Yeah, I don't know whose it was, but I was like, I'm sorry, I have to get rid of that because we're not.
Look at all those chickens.
Look at all those chickens. Hey guys.
Oh my God, we're live.
Welcome to Wrestling Made Me Cry. My name is Kiley.
My name is Collins. Hi, I've missed you guys so much.
I missed wrestling. I missed you guys. I missed everybody. I was away last weekend, but don't worry, guys. I made it back in time for Full Gear, and I'm so happy I did because I loved this show.
Oh my gosh, I was a little bit nervous going into Full Gear because Full Gear for me hasn't always been my favorite pay-per-view.
Yeah.
But they really showed out the show. Every match seemed to be such a banger. I'm really interested in your thoughts about the Costco guys.
I was literally going to ask you that same thing. Listen, I freaking love the Costco guys.
Oh.
Listen, I had no idea who they were before. I didn't know who the Rizzler was. I didn't know anything about these guys. All I knew was people talking about cookies and chicken bake.
Double chocolate chunk cookies.
Yeah, I don't even shop at Costco, so I can't even work on that level.
Oh my God.
They were doing media for AEW, and I was like, okay, these guys are kind of funny. Like and you know that they actually love wrestling because he was talking about Big Boom AJ was talking about his independent career in New Jersey and all his like wrestling history. And then I love this. We have a super chat from Ryan who says, "Can't stay sadly. Hope y'all's week is a snazzy one."
Snazzy.
Snazzy is such an SAT word. We should bring it back. Listen, diva. I love the word diva, but for so long it was so negative, so I never said it. But now people are owning it and calling themselves a diva. We can do that with snazzy. We are single-handedly, I think Gen Z is improving its own literacy through trends.
Well, you say that, and then I hear things like skibbity toilet, and I have no idea.
I don't know who that is.
Okay, you don't need to know.
Does skibbity toilet know the Rizzler? Are
something like that?
Universe?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
But back to the Costco guys, because I've been so excited. This is like, of all the things in Full Gear, this is what I'm most excited to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
So they come out. Well, first of all, Paul White comes out, and he's special guest commentator. I was excited to see him.
Mm-hmm.
And then he says, "Oh, we have a special guest timekeeper," and it's the freaking Rizzler. Mm-hmm. He's got his own entrance. He's got his own song. He comes out. He does look a little bit frightened, I will say. But he's a child.
He's a kid.
He's a child. And then he holds Paul White's hand and walks his little legs down the ramp to the timekeeper's table.
His little legs.
He's so little. He's so like teeny tiny baby.
It's because he's a child.
And I didn't know he was a child for so long. I didn't know who the Rizzler was. All I knew was Jeff Jarrett on the pre-show, the 0 hour, kept going, "Where's the Rizzler? Where is he? I don't know who the Rizzler is." And here comes Big Boom AJ and Big Justice, who's Costco Guy Jr.
Mm-hmm.
And this match had no business being this good. I loved this.
Mm-hmm.
He kicked out of a diamond cutter. There was a freaking top rope superplex situation. It was so good. Mm-hmm. Oh, also QT Marshall's there.
I mean,
wrestling. I forgot about him. I'm sorry. That's not a knock on QT Marshall. Oh my God. Also, my wrestling shirt of the day, I totally forgot, is Hangman.
Oh, that's old school. Yeah, baby.
And then I have my old lady cardigan on because it's kind of cold in Florida today.
I love it. I am wearing Mercedes because we'll get to that match, but holy yes.
Stellar. But back to who really matters.
Yeah. I love that they contracted him for one match. Like, they've gotten all this press. I mean, my non-wrestling friends, my TikTok friends have sent me the video and said, thought you might like this. And it's like, little do you know.
Little
But
do you know.
The Costco guys are everything. And they're getting those Sonicare endorsements, right? They're getting those.
Yes.
The ads of, if you go to Costco, it's 20% off, whatever, the sticker price. And you hear that and it's like, okay, do people realize how big Sonicare is? Do you realize how big Costco is?
Yes.
And you get this guy out here literally advertising your product to just be like, this is good. Yeah, boom. Or, like, it's such a good gimmick, and I love a good gimmick. I love it. But yeah, that man can wrestle, and the spear at the end from Big Justice, it was just like
so good.
So good. Watch out, Roman Reigns.
He's also a child, by the way, chat.
Yeah.
If you didn't know that, he's also a child. So there's two children here. One is the Rizzler, one is Big Justice, and it's a good spear. It's solid. Mm-hmm. And you know what? I will say, I did cry during this match. Not because I was like, oh my God, this is an 8-star classic, which it was. Mm-hmm. But I cried because Big Justice on like the outside in his dad's corner, every time the crowd cheered for his dad or got excited for his dad, he was running around in circles. He was so happy for his dad. And it was so cute. And it was so sweet and so wholesome. And AJ, Big Boom AJ, great wrestler. Mm-hmm. Like, where's his graphic? I don't know what he did.
Before RJ City.
Yeah. Well, he earned it. Yeah. He was so good.
Yeah.
And he got like one of the biggest pops of the night, not even just on the 0 hour. People were really excited for this dude. And then I got really mad because QT Marshall goes and tries to threaten the freaking Rizzler. He walks up to the timekeeper table and he's ready to fight the Rizzler. And the Rizzler is just risen, doing, his little thing.
He's just risen.
Yeah, next to Justin Roberts, who's, dressed to the nines. And then obviously Paul White steps in and is like, Paul White, another icon, by the way, critically important to this angle. But after that, I was like, I just was flabbergasted that this was like a very, very solid match. And they could have done really a 5-minute thing, like done the Big Justice spear, like a couple big spots, show and tell, and be done with it. But they had like a legit match. Mm-hmm. And I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, I heard people online be like, well, if Suki can have a WrestleMania match, like, okay, the Snooki's match during WrestleMania, please go back and rewatch, because that is an athlete, right? Regardless if you've seen her be drunk and stumbling around the Jersey Shore, irregardless. He's an actual wrestler with actual talent, and it was exciting to watch him.
Yes.
And I don't know about you, but it was perfectly placed on the 0 hour. I mean, he's not a week to week after week, putting in the work, but the crowd chanting, Big Justice is never going to forget that about his dad. And I got emotional because I have trauma from my parents, and I laughed because I was like, it's just so like heartwarming to see like a dad be interested in like, be interested in something that their kid is doing and like want to actually hang out with their kid. And my husband just goes, that's usually like a normal father-son relationship. Like, your father was absent. So,
yeah.
Not everyone has that experience. I'm like, yeah, but like I get real jealous because how cool would that be? Like to have that, and you're never gonna forget those memories. So I don't know. It was really precious to see. I felt like I was watching somebody create a core memory while I'm, getting ready to watch 3.5 hours of wrestling.
I there's like something about healing your inner child through wrestling, and like you get silly stuff like this that you know heals you a little bit, but then also it's a little bit more than that, and it feels so like as an adult, I'm like, oh my god, how can I have this like emotional moment about the freaking Costco guys and the freaking Rizzler? But I was really emotional.
Yeah,
I was like, because he was so excited for his dad, and the crowd was chanting for his dad, and he did the spear, and he got the pop, and his dad was, and also as part of like the strong eyebrow club, I feel like we're family. Like I feel like these are my family members. We are one and the same.
Kiley, that's so funny.
I while the match was happening, I texted Kate because Kate was there and I wanted to know what was going on. And I was like, Kate, I think I love the Costco guy. And she goes, he's so over. It's so funny. And I was like, I want him to stay in AEW and beat up Jericho.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I would pay to see that match. Would you not pay to see that match?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
He would show out.
And if Chris Jericho won, I would want him to get booed out the building. Throw your drinks at him. Throw your garbage at him. Like that. That's what we need.
It'd be like old school 80s wrestling, where wrestling fans like were so mad and so heated that they like hunted down wrestlers. It'd be like avenge the Costco guys.
Exactly. That's what we need.
I loved them, and I'm so glad that it seems like everybody in the chat loved them too. Just a reminder, guys, if you want your question, your comment, whatever, read on air, make sure to submit a super chat. And we will read all of those. But I did want to say this because Joe says the 4-way match that before that was great too.
Oh my gosh.
Can we talk about Buddy for a second?
We need to talk about, we talked about it like a couple weeks ago that we were like, it is time for Buddy to have a push. It is time for him to get some sort of exposure, some sort of, push as a single star, because he was compared to Kenny Omega for so long.
Yes.
Well, let's push him to the moon. And yes, his body has changed. I'm always so startled by how he is.
He's tanky.
Yeah. How does he get that way? I don't know. Hard work and dedication, I guess. But this man has it all. And he just needs that extra push over the edge. So it was such a fun flying match. I mean, the Beast Mortos is just so brutal.
Yes.
How can he wrestle like that and be of that size? Am I happy that Dante Martin got pinned? Not really, because they're trying to repackage, Top Flight a little bit. But I'm interested to see where this goes. Please, Tony Khan, don't let this just stall out, please.
I am so excited for Buddy. Not just because I think he deserves it, but also I'm so excited to just see him wrestle more, because for so long, right, like the House of Black, it was Malachi was the singles guy. Malachi came in, he did the thing with Cody. He was having the singles feuds. And then Brody, of course, went off with Julia, and then Buddy was just kind of there. Like he didn't get much of anything, which is a waste of an athlete like him. Because I think in this match with people like Dante Martin and Beast Mortos and Commander, he was like, you really got to see how athletic he really, really is, because he stood toe to toe with those guys. He went step for step, and he was really good. And he was so over with the crowd. He got a massive pop. They chanted Buddy. They, this is awesome chants, fight forever chants, the full freaking 9, dude. So they need to capitalize on this. And I don't know if that is TNT title picture with Daniel Garcia, which would be chef's kiss amazing. I don't know if you send him after Takeshita. I don't know what you do, but he needs to start chasing something, because they need to capitalize on this, especially since you got freaking Malachi and Brody doing tag team stuff, which we'll get to. He was so stupidly over, and it snuck up on people.
Yeah, I agree.
That's how you know it's organic. It's entirely organic, and he looked so pleased that they were chanting Buddy. And like Kate says, hi Kate, he was over as hell. He was. And I loved it. And I was he got the win and he deserved it. And I was just, what a dude.
It was such a good match. And Kate, I'd love to hear your thoughts about this match, just because there was so much going on, like in and outside the ring, because there's only so much you can track with 4 different people all at once. And there was a moment during the match where everyone's getting their ish in, right? You know, getting to the 2 count, you know, then it's somebody else's sequence. And of course, for me, you know, the match before didn't really, you know, light my candle, so to speak, you know. So hearing the crowd was actually in the building and hearing how they were going after Buddy and it like kind of encouraging him, really validated, I guess the word would be, that he is doing something right. He just needs that additional, you know, booking push. He isn't just Malachi's, you know, lackey or whatever, but I don't know. It felt good.
Yeah.
It felt good. So that was what I needed. The previous match before, I did not think that Deonna losing in New Jersey was the right option, but
and so fast.
Yeah. I mean, it sucks because they were in such a weird place on the card. They're literally first. It's 0 hour. People are still filtering in. They're probably looking at merch. They're probably looking at, you know, what they're going to have for snacks or food or whatever. We've been there. I've missed opening matches all the time, but Anna Jay has improved significantly. I mean, Deonna is a masterclass in women's wrestling, but yeah, it was just 6 minutes of, okay, there are some awkward places, but they really showed, you know, what they could do in that short amount of time. But it just sucks that the crowd was just like not there.
Yeah. And I posted this on Blue Sky, and I think it's really relevant for this conversation, but I posted this about Mercedes. But what like people have been saying for months, right? The AEW women's roster is stacked. They have so much talent, but they're not using it. Like, obviously, right. Mercedes and Kris Statlander, which we'll get to, stellar match. Mm-hmm. Probably my favorite women's match to come out of AEW ever. Mm-hmm. And then you have, like, it's complete polar opposites. You have 2 excellent talents. One talent, Anna Jay, that AEW has spent years building. Like, she's homegrown. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of a throwaway. Like, not that I think these wrestlers are throwaway wrestlers, because I think both of them should have been on the main card and they should have gotten time. Mm-hmm. But it's just so frustrating because you have Deonna, who you brought in, and she kind of started off hot with the Brit angle. She's had a lot of great matches, and it's kind of fizzled. And then you have Anna Jay, who came back from Japan, and people are really excited to see Anna Jay. And I feel like they've dropped the ball. They haven't really capitalized on all the hype of her coming back. And so, and that doesn't mean that I dislike the Mariah May stuff, that I dislike Mercedes or anything like that. But I think that we've reached a point where with the women's division where we should be able to have matches that aren't just title matches. Because if you look at the Full Gear card, if you look at the Full Gear card, like MJF and Roderick Strong, why couldn't that have been a strong women's match? Because you also have Jay White and Hangman. That's not a title match. It's just a feud fueled by anger and a desire to be the best. Mm-hmm.
Bobby Lashley and Swerve was not for a title, and it was the co-main event or whatever they were calling it.
Yeah, and so I don't understand on a show that went so ridiculously long that you couldn't have slotted that in somewhere and given them 15 minutes. Because if you let Anna Jay, especially Anna Jay, on your pay-per-view where you have a ton of eyes and there's like greater stakes than a Dynamite or a Collision or whatever, then you show why she went to Japan, why it was necessary.
Yes.
Especially because we're like 6 weeks out from Wrestle Dynasty, which is this incredible supposedly going to be like massive crossover show.
Yeah.
Where Kenny Omega is going to be there. All these AW people are going to be there. This Japanese talent is going to be there. Where? And
right.
So, and like Kate says, we don't even have the women's title on the card. We did have the celebration, Mariah May and Mina Shirakawa's celebration that it culminated in essentially Mina being a smart babyface and realizing the ruse. She goes, the jig is up. She kicks the champagne bottle, ends up like kissing Mariah May, biting Mariah May, not sure, drinking her blood, not sure what happened there. Very vampiric.
I mean, I'm into it.
I was into it because I think I expected going into it that Mariah May was going to beat up Mina and we were going to get this massive beat down angle. Maybe there'd be Toni Storm, probably not. And then that would be that. But it was a little bit interesting. I just don't understand. You could have put Mina in a match and then done this after. But this whole setup was on a pay-per-view just for that. I don't think that's a Dynamite thing. Like, you do those on TV.
Right. You do those on TV. And we could have had this angle on TV. There was no reason for this. I know that Anna Jay got great praise from Tony Khan for her match with Mariah May, which is like, great. You want to praise her. Why did you not have a rematch or something? The fact that there was only one women's match on the Full Gear main card is ridiculous. And when I did my predictions this last week for Full Gear, I had a little quiz for those on there. It was Ella J, Jose on Air, and Kimmy Sokol. And I had them choose out of all of the women's matches, pick out which ones have been over 15 minutes. And let me tell you, there were two. And they were barely over 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Everything else had been 6 minutes, 7 minutes, 8 minutes. 12 minutes.
And it's ridiculous when if you actually like go on the AEW website, pull up the roster and you scroll, it's ridiculous because the level of talent there warrants, to me, and I think to most AEW fans, a greater share of the pot here.
Yeah.
You have a crazy long pay-per-view.
I'm trying to think. It was like 2011, like WWE, there was 6, 7 women, and you had to figure out a women's division based on that, which, like, okay, I understand. You really only have, like, Beth Phoenix and then, like, everyone else who's, like, less than. And then, in comes basically the, the women's revolution and all of that. But there are so many women, and they'll utilize them not just on Ring of Honor as well, where they're in squash match after squash match. That's the part that it makes me actually physically cry and physically ill thinking of all that wasted talent that is backstage just because we have to have Roderick Strong versus MJF, which
we did not need because okay, you know what? Let's just get like straight on into the freaking card because now I'm ready. I'm ready. This was my least favorite match on the card.
Okay,
it was fine. Like, I think Roddy doesn't get enough credit. I think that he, in a lot of places in this match, maybe this is controversial, I think he carried.
Yeah,
I do not understand the Adam Cole stuff, and hear me out. He's late to make the save at the end. MJF is like basically trying to he's trying to permanently injure Roderick Strong. He's late to make the save, right? He ends up making the save. He then doesn't chase MJF. He just stands in the ring like a goober while the Kingdom is tending to Roderick Strong. And then Kyle O'Reilly comes out, who's also late to make the save, even later. And he pushes Adam Cole because he's mad that he didn't make the save and didn't chase MJF.
Right.
But Kyle O'Reilly was later and also didn't chase MJF. And you know who also didn't chase MJF? The entire kingdom.
Yeah.
So if the story is that Adam Cole is secretly still aligned with MJF or wants to be aligned with MJF again, whatever it is, what's Kyle O'Reilly's excuse?
He's hanging out with his new friends, the conglomeration.
So he's even worse.
Exactly.
He's not the worst.
So when I was fantasy booking Adam Cole's return before he came back, I said that I want heel Adam Cole. If that's the true angle that we wanted him when he came out, last year at World's End, he was the devil, and I was like, yes, we're gonna get heel Adam Cole. And then Adam Cole had his ankle stuff, and that's fine. You can go out with injury, but can we just pick up where we were? Like, I've invested so much time into this devil storyline. Can we just be a dastardly heel? This asshole from ROH, we saw a glimpse in NXT. Can't I just have something nice, like a mean asshole but dominating Adam Cole? Yeah, he looks like he's dipped in iodine, and yeah, he looks not like he used to. But go through your friends one by one to show who is the better member. Go through Mike Bennett. Go through Matt Taven. Go through Roddy. Go through Kyle O'Reilly. Go through all of the freaking conglomeration for all I care. Get yourself on TV. Look less orange. But I want a dominant Adam Cole to defeat MJF.
Yes, and if you're going to put him right back into the MJF story, why are we jumping through so many hoops when we could walk around them? Like,
I know.
He was extraordinarily late to make the save.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to highlight that, so you have someone come in just to be mad at him because he was late to make the save? When that person
no sense.
Then carries Roderick Strong to the back. It makes no sense. It's so convoluted. Mm-hmm. And Adam Cole comes back. And I don't understand. This is another case of dropping the ball, in my opinion. Same thing with Anna Jay. Why isn't he chasing the best of the best in the freaking company? He comes back into an AEW that has suddenly had Kyle Fletcher, Will Ospreay, Okada, Ricochet, Takeshita. All these people have risen in stock far above Adam Cole. And he's like, you know what? I'm just going to be a good pal.
Yeah, I'm just great friend.
When we last saw him, he betrayed his friend for the sole purpose of being the best.
Yeah.
What?
I know.
And this match, it was fine. Roderick Strong should get all the credit. MJF, don't know what's going on, bud. Okay. It's an MJF match. It's the same thing we've seen 20 times. Wash, rinse, and repeat.
Mm-hmm.
It's the angle that, like, and everybody, listen. I don't know what is going on with AEW and their spray tan situation.
It's so bad.
About it, so we have to address it. And I said, I think I told multiple people this because I was so confused. They don't look orange. They look yellow. They look jaundiced.
And it wasn't even the Full Gear lights, because the Full Gear lights were yellow. And I was like, okay. And it just never left. And it's been week after week after week. That's why I said dipped in iodine, because it's that significant color that this is not spray tan. And I just want to know, where did all the good spray tanners go? Right?
I don't know what happened.
Do y'all not know how to do a spray tan? Do y'all not know, like, a home care system? And I've talked about it ad nauseum. B-Tan, which is so great. There's so many other great self-tan things if you don't want to, physically bake yourself in a, I don't know. Every time I think about a tanning bed, I just think about that guy that was stuck in the tanning bed for 3 days and he was like dead or whatever.
Oh yeah. I think about, isn't that something that happened in one of the Final Destination movies.
Oh yeah, that too. Yeah,
I think about that. But I
thanks.
And it was absurd on this show because it was like every match, even if people didn't look yellow, there'd be certain angles where their skin would just turn yellow.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think the lights play part of the role in it. And I also think that something has happened with the spray tan formula. I don't know if AEW pays someone to follow around and be a spray tan artist.
Fire them.
If that's the case, get rid of them.
Right now.
I don't know if like this is some kind of fashion trend that is taken off backstage in AEW.
Oh my gosh.
Where it's like, you got to be the most orange. I don't know. I genuinely have no idea, but it was atrocious on this show. It was so difficult to ignore.
I know.
Because you'd be in a situation where the wrestler would look yellow, and then you look at the referee and they're white as snow. They're pale. I don't know what happened.
I don't know either.
I think it's a combination of MJF getting progressively more orange and like upping the orange quota of the show.
The orange quota. They heard Orange Cassidy is in the main event and they go, you know what? I'm going to try that.
Who was not orange, by the way.
I mean, he was red. He certainly was blood orange, but.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on, but we had to address it because it was absurd because what is happening? What is happening? Send out a memo, Tony Khan, and tell people to chill. Tell them to chill. Have them also wait. First of all, you need to research this, Tony Khan. You need to have people send you a picture of the brand of spray tan that they use. You need to find the culprit, what is turning people yellow, and ban it.
Well, I mean, I think it's the like cheap spray tan, right? Or do you remember that episode of BTE where the Young Bucks and Adam Cole are just in the back, just spray tan each other?
L'Oreal spray tan or something. Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that's like drugstore garbage. That's gonna make you look orange. Come on, Sephora has stuff for like $20-$30 and it lasts. Yes. And it doesn't make you look like that.
You use it for business.
Yeah.
Max write-off.
Yes. See? All right. They should consult us.
Yeah. Consult us on everything before you do it. I think that's more what the heck? I was flabbergasted. Roger Strong in particular looked jaundiced.
I mean, I thought it was almost a bit that he was doing. And I was like, okay, what's happening? And I miss his mustache so much. I think that was the biggest mistake. Huge mistake of Big Dick Roddy Strong, you know?
We need to make, like, you know, when the founding fathers wrote the Declaration of Independence and they like laid out their grievances for the king? We need to write one and lay out our grievances for Tony Khan.
Oh my God.
And number one is like the tanning situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Number two is like, why are you letting people cut their facial hair? Also, why did he like Flash Wheeler cut off his mullet? Still haven't gotten an answer.
It's a mistake. That was a mistake.
Yeah. Absurd. But you know what? Speaking of mustaches, let's talk about the tag team forward.
Oh my God. So I missed a huge chunk of it because I was dealing with this situation with the dogs. So I'm cleaning up, you know, all the things, making sure dogs aren't, because my dog's onto a little fight is fine. So I missed a big chunk of it. And every time I'm hearing my husband in the other room go, oh my God, just absolutely incredible match, but also storyline, because we see 4 times that Max Caster and Anthony Bowens are having trouble in paradise. Yes. There were times that Max Caster tagged himself in that Anthony was supposed to be pinning. There were times where Max Caster was showboating a little bit too much. There were times where they weren't talking to each other, that they weren't, communicating, because a win is a win, right?
Yes.
But it sounds like Max Caster, he wants it all for himself. And the raps are terrible, abysmal. I loved your tweet from yesterday. Absolutely fire. What did you say? He initiates
Max Caster induces instant nausea.
Yeah, absolutely.
And because this rap was no different.
It was no different. It's just his raps have gone progressively worse, and now it's bordering on the line of cheap, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, in this rap, it was just the cheap jokes about, you know, sex. And then he goes, everybody loves the best wrestler alive. And he throws the mic at Bowens. Bowens obviously doesn't catch it because he's not expecting it. He's just kind of like looking around. Like,
right.
what the heck, dude? Yeah. And then the match itself, Charlie from Wrestle Purist had said that it was a little upsetting that Private Party is in this match as the champions, and the match itself is built around the Acclaimed, which I understand. Private Party, you know, spoiler alert, they did end up retaining. But I did think, one, it was interesting that Max Caster is wearing tights that, one, resemble the Young Bucks. You'll never be the Young Bucks, Max Caster. And two, are different, for a different vibe from what Anthony Bowens is wearing. And Anthony Bowens posted this morning, which I don't know if you can see. It's himself standing across the ring from Max Caster. So clearly, resentment is building. I'm so ready to be done with the Acclaimed.
We've been ready for a year. We've talked about this.
Yes. I'm on the edge of my seat. Because, you know, Kings of the Black Throne were in this match. They were good. Whatever. Brody was the highlight.
Yes.
My dad, he saw Brody King for the first time and was like, man, he's tatted up. And now every time I see Brody, I'm like, he really is a wrestler for the girls and the dads.
Yeah.
And I love that about him. So Brody, love. The Outrunners were funny, as always. Loved them.
Mm-hmm.
Private Party, excellent as always. They were even better in the presser. Important questions about representation and the value of it all and all of that. But I think the story coming out of this is the Acclaimed. And I'm so ready, so beyond ready for Anthony Bowens to put that man in the ground and go off.
Don't just end his career. Put him in the ground.
Put him in the ground. Because then he's never coming back.
Oh, makes me feel like
Tony Khan, if I'm adding this to our list of grievances, the fact that Anthony Bowens has yet to wrestle Shelton Benjamin is atrocious. But
I know
you can make up for it by booking that match at World's End. Because I'll be there. And you can make it up to me by booking it there. Mm-hmm. This tag match was fine. It was never going to be match of the night because a 4-way tag, like, you got to be really freaking special to make that more important than some of the matches on this card. But the Acclaimed, we're going to be free soon. Thank God. Thank God.
Thank God. You know, it's so interesting. I feel like someone like Cultaholic should do like the rise and fall of the Acclaimed, because going from AEW's favorite tag team, how many of those freaking scissor foam fingers did they sell? A lot. There were a lot at the first Dynamite that was in Seattle. And now they leave such a bitter taste in your mouth that it's like sour milk, you know? It's just, I don't want to use it. For some reason, Tony Khan keeps putting it in our fridge. It's expired. I'm done.
Yeah. He was pulling it out of the trash, shaking it up a little, putting it back in the fridge.
There's still a little bit left.
Yeah.
No.
And the thing is, I think that, like, Tony Khan and I think a lot of AEW fans, when someone is homegrown, the instinct isn't to, like, put something to death and then sort of, like, figure out where to go from there. The instinct is to kind of, like, fix things in place. And so I think with the Acclaimed, as they were dying and as the angle was like fading, I think that like Tony Khan's instinct was to sort of save them, if that makes sense, to find something that'll get them hot again, to kind of move beyond it. But I think ultimately all the attempts to sort of save the Acclaimed have sort of dug the grave even further. And like, obviously, Max Caster doesn't help the situation. I think that his raps have kind of like soured his image in the eyes of a lot of fans. I think that like, and I do think also Colin's power flickered. So you get just me for a second. But this is okay because it's a Max Caster rant and that's what I'm here for. So I think at a certain point, Max Caster's raps being this bad, I think it's become intentional in the sense that they want to tell the story of Max Caster going off the rails into the showboating and the trolling and all of that. But I'm not sure where the point is, but I think up to a point, it was entirely just Max Caster being a douche, just being a douche. And so I think Jose is 100% right here. Max's creative choices have tanked the act. Like, I think the Acclaimed as a whole was so hot for so long because, one, obviously they're good wrestlers. I don't think anybody can deny that. I think they have catchy chants. I think they're highly marketable. I think that they have a solid brand, all of those things. But that only gets you so far, especially when you have someone like Max Caster who, like, a couple problematic lines, especially early on in the Acclaim's, tenure, they were forgiven because, people make a first mistake, a second mistake. They tend to get forgiven. But it was like one after the other. And then he's on Twitter being annoying and saying problematic, edgy things like he's 16 and he's just entering the world. And it's just... And then people started realizing how good Anthony Bowens is. And it was kind of difficult at that point to say, you can't really do it. And like Mike says, everybody loved the Acclaim, but it's long over. And I don't know, like, if you bring the Acclaimed back together at the end of the day, because you can split them up. And I think we talked about this last show. You can split them up and have Anthony Bowens go do, a singles run, which I have thoughts about what that singles run should be. I think he should be in the C2. And I think that the Hurt Business should be following him through the C2, trying to recruit him, all that kind of stuff. And then you can have Max Caster be off TV if you want, but you could also have Max Caster try a singles run and be a complete abject failure. And then in doing that, you can kind of resurrect the Max Caster character by reuniting the Acclaimed and Max Caster sort of being penitent and wanting forgiveness, and Anthony Bowens with all the success and all this, no pun intended, acclaim, and then come back together that way. You could do that. But I also don't know, like, if AEW has the space for that logistically, because they have the international title picture and Takeshita, which we're going to get to, because boy, do I have thoughts about Takeshita. And you have Okada and you have Ospreay and you have like all these people. So it's like, how much of that world-class wrestling for the sickos type stuff, right, are you willing to take off TV to let this Max Caster story play out? Like, I personally think it would be a good story. I think that Max Caster, as a heel, being annoying, there's space for that in AEW because we don't really, we have heels, but they're all kind of Hangman Moxley style crazy type of stuff. It's not really annoying, fly buzzing around you type of annoying. And so then it's like, it ultimately comes down to, what are you willing to give up for Max Caster to have that space, if that makes sense. Collins is back, by the way.
Hi.
We're just talking about where we think Max Caster goes if the Acclaim splits up. And we're kind of like just spitballing some ideas. But I think ultimately I would want Anthony Bowens to be part of the Hurt Syndicate, associated with the Hurt Syndicate, fighting the Hurt Syndicate, something there, because I think that that will elevate Anthony Bowens as a singles star, because if you have legends like MVP and Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin wanting him the same way that they wanted Swerve, like just being associated with that elevates you. And then you could have them, like the Hurt Syndicate, you could have them reject Max Caster and be like, no, not you. Him. Not you. Him. And I think that would be interesting. But like, and while you're gone, Collins, we were talking about this. I don't know how much TV time you end up giving up for Max Caster to tell some kind of redemption arc or have a heel run that I think eventually the Acclaimed will reunite, because I think Tony Khan is too fond of them not to. But I don't know if AEW has space for them to do that, especially on the Max Caster side. So I think maybe you take him off TV and he goes and, trolls the internet for a while. I'm still the best wrestler alive, blah, 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 blah. And then you could have some kind of reunion eventually down the line, something like that.
Yeah. Eventually, but not now.
Yeah, not now. Yeah, it's because you have the C2 looming. You have, obviously, AEW's World's End pay-per-view. You have the Wrestle Dynasty show, which I'm excited for. Mm-hmm. And then you have, like, the beginning of the year for AEW is always kind of, like, creative rework time where new things are tried. So maybe you could do something there? I don't know. There's just so many people in AEW that it's hard for me to say, do we give less time to Ricochet?
You're right.
Max Caster can have time. Do we give less time to Private Party, to Anna Jay, to Julia Hart, to Mercedes, to Mariah May, to Kris Statlander, to Jamie Hayter? Like, and you can go on and on and on. I don't know.
I really do think that they have so many wrestlers. I mean, we've been saying this for 2 years, so many wrestlers, so many belts, that you have to have a definitive, this wrestler appears on Dynamite, this one appears on Collision, because then I feel like we could actually focus in on just having Dynamite and Collision feuds that could culminate into really great pay-per-views that are just a smorgasbord of everything. But we'll see. But I like the idea of Anthony Bowens pinning Max Caster and having Max Caster be big sad boy. Oh, I'm not the best wrestler. Yeah, you're not. But you're not. Yeah. You're not even on the list.
Mm-hmm. You're not even on the roster.
Yeah. Sorry.
And I think, I don't know, because AEW for the US, and I think it's just a US thing, they're going to be simulcasted on Max, which is HBO's streaming service, which is kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
And so I'm assuming, mind you, this is me assuming that those first few shows are going to be kind of jam-packed insanity, because you're going to have, it's a new audience, new eyes, and all that kind of stuff. And so I think you got to be kind of rid of Max Caster by then, if I'm being completely honest. I think that
goodbye.
Goodbye. Because I think if you watch AEW for the first time and you know nothing, right? You don't know anything, and you hear Max Caster make those kind of jokes, I don't know if that necessarily translates in your head that he's a troll. I think that's just kind of like lowbrow humor, like not into it at all. So I don't know. I think Anthony Bowens has a higher ceiling.
I agree.
At the end of the day.
I agree.
Period. Do you want... I'm looking. I have the card on my phone right now, and I'm like, oh my god, which match
I'm looking at.
I want to talk about next? Do you have one that you want to talk about?
My notes. So after MJF and Roddy, we have the women's match, which I know we've dipped into the lake a little bit.
Yes.
Of women's wrestling. But after this match, after such a weird dud finish of a match that didn't make any sense, don't like this, to Mercedes had to show out, right? She's had such stinkers against Britt Baker, such stinkers, you know, with Shida, which is like, okay, what Mercedes needs is not someone to, all the best Mercedes and Sasha Banks matches haven't been someone that's green to elevate them. It's been mono, we are at the same, let's keep wrestling each other. And I don't want to fault Mercedes at that point that she can't really elevate younger wrestlers. She does need to work on them and have that kind of great match. It's unfortunate that the Britt Baker match is really kind of the highlight that people remember of Mercedes' career right now. But I hope that when they look back at this TBS championship reign is that they see this Kris Statlander match, because this was one of the best Mercedes matches. Her versus Willow was also fantastic for the title. But this is where we saw Mercedes without Camille doing the best Mercedes has wrestled since her New Japan stuff.
Yeah.
Before she got injured. And I absolutely love a heel Mercedes. I love when she's doing her temper tantrums and she does the best ugly crying temper tantrum face, which is so great. It really adds to the element. But we know that her previous gear maker was her husband, her now ex-husband. So she's been trying new things. This is the first time I felt like she looked like a champion.
Yes.
In gear and wrestling.
Yes.
And I love the purple. I love that it was very similar to the purple belt that she has. I really enjoy her as a wrestler here, and Kris just showed out. What did you think of the Eddie Guerrero spot? The crowd was so into it.
Yeah, and I think Mercedes, the Eddie Guerrero spot I really enjoyed because I'm always going to.
Yeah.
But I think in general, Mercedes in this match, like you said, she looked like a champion for the first time, but I also feel like this is the first time that she's really gotten to show off all of like the lucha training that she did and the Japanese training that she did. And I think it's because of Kris Statlander, because I think the Britt Baker match is an outlier because we talked about Britt Baker, you know our thoughts about that. But I think the Shida match, I think Mercedes really shines when she's not going like strike for strike with someone. I think she really shines when she has someone who's able to let her do the crazy lucha stuff and and they can be like the base. And she's able to do these kind of like submissions and that kind of like catch wrestling stuff. But then she can also do the hard strikes, and she's against someone who can kind of take that. And so I think Kris really was the ideal opponent here. And I think like the untold story of this whole match is Kris Statlander was made in this match. Like she's always been a star. She's always been a staple of the AEW women's division. But I think Kris Statlander in this match was excellent. I think this is my favorite Kris Statlander match, and I think my favorite AEW women's match. And I think coming out of it, even though Kris Statlander lost, I think her stock is infinitely higher because of
it.
Because they put Mercedes against some of the biggest hitters in the women's division, and it's been mid. It's been mid to the point where people were doubting whether Mercedes could actually wrestle. I never doubted, mind you.
I mean, that was my opinion of, did Tony Khan waste a bunch of money for someone who has had a couple good matches, a couple good feuds, right? What do we remember of her feuds in WWE? Bianca, Charlotte, Bayley.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah,
I mean, we remember Team Bad and like that, but what do we remember her for singles feuds?
I think her biggest singles feud in general is Bayley. But I also think that Mercedes in WWE kind of got pigeonholed in the sense that, you know, she's a Black woman, and I'm treading very carefully here because I don't want to make any WWE fans upset. But I think while she was there, she was kind of expected to fill a certain role, and that role didn't really allow her the kind of like creative output that she's had in Japan and in AEW. And so I think the Willow match was really good. And I don't want it to sound like I'm saying, oh, that Willow match, it sucked. Yeah. But I think this match with Kris Statlander, people were like, oh, she can still wrestle like she did in Brooklyn with Bayley. I think this is like the first time, or one of the few times since Brooklyn, that we've seen her wrestle at this level. And I think that Mercedes needed it. I think that because like, and it's like you said, people were saying Tony Khan wasted the money reasonably. I think that this is a waste of a championship reign. It's awful. The Camille stuff is awful. The story is bad. All the things. And I think a lot of it was justified. I'm going to be straight up honest. I think a lot of the critique of Mercedes and AEW has been justified. But I think this match, because there's no Camille, there's no sort of shenanigans, showboating. It is just Mercedes as a wrestler doing what she does best, and Kris Statlander doing her damnedest to make this thing work. And it freaking worked. And it was my favorite match of the night. And I don't think that's an unpopular opinion at all. And I think moving forward, we need to recalibrate how AEW needs to recalibrate how they approach Mercedes.
Absolutely.
Because the Camille thing needs to go away. Camille, I don't know what you do. But Mercedes needs to be her own thing, her own entity. And you kind of have to get her into these matches where she can scream and throw tantrums and be frustrated. And then 2 seconds later, she's Eddie Guerrero. Yeah. And then 2 seconds after that, she's striking as hard as anybody ever has. And like, let her freaking do that. And we saw shades of it in the Willow match. But because I think the Willow match in general was inhibited by this like Mercedes CEO thing that's happening. That isn't Mercedes. Like, I think we're talking about two different characters at this point.
Yeah.
And so I think AEW needs to just get down to brass tacks, and not just for Mercedes, for a lot of things happening right now, and just let things play out. Like, let people go into the ring and just do it. And I think there's matches on this card where that happened, like Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher, where we haven't even gotten to that. By foreshadowing, you get down to brass tacks and you let things play out, and people freaking shine. And the difference between something like this Mercedes match and something like the MJF match is shocking.
I mean, the fact that they were up against each other, but back up against each other. The matches were next to each other. But I do want to highlight how powerful Kris Statlander is. Taking a, I mean, don't get me wrong, Mercedes is a small person, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I lift weights, you lift weights. Like, she would be about kind of maybe where we would max out, right?
Yeah.
I have no idea how much she weighs, but that's neither here nor there. That's where it's like, okay, that's where it would feel, comfortable doing a couple times. There were a couple points where Kris just deadlifts her, literally takes her from the ground and pulls her up. And I'm like, that's psychotic. Kris, how are you this strong? I mean, she's always been a strong gal. I mean, her posing at the beginning of the match was just glorious to see, because she is not, people think that Camille is strong. Yes, she is. But Kris, I think, is stronger.
Yeah.
And Mercedes going for the frog splash and literally landing on Kris Statlander, and she used the momentum of Mercedes to fold her up and slam her onto the ground. I forget what her move is called. It was at the Saturday night or whatever. Saturday Night Fever. I can't remember what they were calling it, but, and then into a very, very near fall. I don't know. We know how NXT used to be near fall. Oh my God. The crowd is going wild. This is kind of how I felt. The crowd was going absolutely wild. And this is the kind of women's match that we needed. I don't know how much more proof that Tony Khan needs, because I don't know, let women have stinkers of matches. Let them. You had stinkers of matches before with men, and they're booked just fine on your shows. Like, you never know when you go in with zero expectation, because if you have one women's match, all of the pressure is on these women to perform.
Yeah.
Come on, put more women's matches on there, because you are going to be delightfully surprised. But
yeah, and I also think this match in general has proven, well, like we said, that Mercedes is a worthwhile investment, but also that women's wrestling is a worthwhile investment.
Yeah.
And I think when you have one women's match on the card, then we get this kind of stigma about, oh, it's time for a bathroom break.
Yeah.
This is my bathroom break match. And I hate that. If you've ever been to a wrestling show, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But I think in the this pay-per-view cycle to World's End, and then obviously going on to Max, I think the women's division needs to be a bigger focus, because people have been clamoring for Athena to make the jump. Don't know if it's happening. Don't know if it'll ever happen. But you have Kris Statlander, who is instantly risen to like main event level. You obviously Mercedes, the Mariah May stuff, which I think is a little polarizing, but I think it's been fun. I've enjoyed it. Toni Storm is lurking, presumably. So I think that if you're Tony Khan and Mercedes and Kris Statlander put out this match, which I think it was match of the night, then what is stopping you from doing more with them? Because like the angle, the Mariah May, Mina Shirakawa angle, that does not count as a match. That doesn't count as women's time, because it shouldn't have been there in the first place. And then we already talked about the Anna Jay thing and dropping the ball with Anna Jay and all of that. And I just thought this match was so just absurdly good.
Yeah.
Absurdly good. And we needed it. Mercedes needed it. Tony Khan needed it. Everybody needed it. It was ridiculous. And I think it was Evil Uno on Blue Sky said that Kris Statlander is like pound for pound one of the strongest people in AEW. And I freaking believe it. Yeah. I believe it. She was throwing Mercedes around like a rag doll. And Mercedes is a small person. She's petite. But still, to pick up a human being of any size, if you ever go to the gym and you pick up a kettlebell and you try to throw a kettlebell, regardless of the weight, it's freaking hard. It's freaking hard. And Kris Statlander, I'm just obsessed with her, I think.
Yeah.
I'm just obsessed.
Easily to obsess over someone who could do anything. Yet she's here wrestling.
Superhuman. She's superhuman.
Yeah. More than a woman. More than a woman. Do you want to talk about the next match?
Which one is the next match? I can't remember.
Hangman versus Jay White. I feel like we're on opposite ends here, because you don't think Hangman did anything wrong.
No.
And I'm saying that Jay White has won 5 times over.
I did. Okay. I love Jay White. Let me say that. I love him.
He's the better man 5 times.
I thought the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 thing was really funny.
Yeah.
But why the heck is Hangman losing so much. He's losing so much. And for no reason. Because if you think about it, right? Hangman coming out of the Swerve thing, people were like, oh my God, what's Hangman going to do next? He's so unhinged. He's so crazy. Apparently, what he's going to do is freaking lose. Okay? And then at the end of the show, he's going to show up and save Orange Cassidy, presumably at the behest of Christian Cage.
Yeah.
Presumably. And what are we doing? He was burning down houses not that long ago.
I know. But
I think Jay White needs the win because I think AEW, I think they're finally things are clicking into place for them with Jay White. They're getting, because he was injured, and then also they didn't apparently expect that they were going to sign Jay White. So I think the ball is rolling, things are clicking into place, the machine is running. Okay. What about Hangman? Because Hangman versus Jon Moxley, excellent match. Hangman versus literally freaking anybody.
Yeah.
Excellent match. And I understand that he's crazy and we need to make him more crazy. But what's the end goal? He's going to be so crazy that he's going to win and he can only win when he's crazy?
Yeah.
Or is the end goal that he's going to be so crazy that Kenny Omega or the Young Bucks are going to show up and save him?
Yeah.
Which, how? Who, what, when, where, why, and how?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I like that at all. And so, what are we doing? What are we doing?
You know what we're doing? We're having Jay White get wins. That's what he came here to do.
I respect it because he.
And 5 times he's been the better man.
And I respect it.
But
I love Jay White. I'm happy Jay White is getting wins because I personally think that Jay White should be in title contention because I think that he's been here long enough, first of all. Second of all, people like Okada and Ospreay came in and they were immediately there in title contention. So I don't know, maybe Jay White, Jon Moxley, maybe, because I think we're headed for a 4-way situation.
See, that's the thing. I think the thing that we're coming out of Full Gear, and we'll even expand on it at World's End. What are we setting up for 2025? Who is going to take this from Jon Moxley? We know that Darby is in that picture somewhere. We know that Jay White is going to be in that picture. We know that Will Ospreay is going to be in that picture.
Because, okay, so the story that commentary was telling during the pre-show and then off and on through the main show was that people are fighting for AEW. And we're in a fight for the heart and soul of AEW.
Mm-hmm.
And that people like Jon Moxley are here destroying AEW because they think people don't work hard enough or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever
sure.
Moxley's gripes are. And so, what's the end result of that? Does Hangman get saved by Kenny Omega? And he's like, oh yeah, Kenny, you're so right. I should not have burned down that house, dude. My mental illness is cured. I need to win the world title to save AEW.
Mm-hmm.
Is that where we're going? Because
mm-hmm.
because it seems like there's an airplane outside. Sorry if you hear it. It seems like they set up some sort of 4-way with Jay White, Christian Cage, Hangman, and Jon Moxley. And Darby Allin, who was not in the ring for the segment, presumably he's sort of lurking on the outskirts, next in line situation. So I don't get it. Because Christian, he has his thing, his money, not money in the bank. And then Hangman just lost. So, to Jay White, mind you, 5 times. And so, why? First of all, the thing where Christian Cage thanks Hangman for helping him, and then Jay White is there. And it was chaos, and I kind of loved the chaos because my ADHD brain was one after the other. Because, mind you, they did not all come into the ring at the same time. It was literally line leader, like one after one, and then you waited your turn, and then there's another one, and it was crazy. Mm-hmm. So like, is the end result of this whole save AEW fighting for the heart of AEW story Hangman Page beating his delusions to beat Jon Moxley?
I mean, arson will make any man go mad.
But he was mad before that.
Home invasion will make anybody mad.
I guess.
Drinking Swerve's blood and spitting it out will make anyone mad.
Which, mind you, now that happened in AEW, now every time there's blood in a match, I'm like, kind of tame.
Put it in your mouth, man, you coward.
Doesn't have the same effect, sorry. But this Hangman Jay White match, it was good, and it was excellent, and I really enjoyed it. I just don't understand what the goal is.
Well, you know what I did love is that I just love that Hangman is like that beaten up old man, that he's just going to like get the fight done. He's not even thinking about his body. He just needs to win the fight. We know that doesn't always wind up the best for most people. But the previous match with Statlander and Mercedes got the win because she goes, oh, I'm going to capitalize on this knee thing with Kris. So at the end, it was just beating up her knee, and then doing, probably some damage to her leg to get that win. Whereas this was Jay White getting hit in the ankle, getting hit in the leg, getting, all the things to like get him down on the ground. And Jay White doing the same thing to Hangman, being like, I know your weakness. Stop trying to do it to me. And they were just going back and forth. And that ankle lock outside the ring on the ramp. And it was just playing with me of this, oh my gosh, are they going to get a double count out? Is that how we're ending this match? Both of these men want to win so bad that they would forego the actual rules of the wrestling match just so that neither of them could win. I thought that would have been so good, but they didn't do that. But that's fine. But that ankle lock made my little Kurt Angle heart happy. But just really isolating those limbs, it's great wrestling. That's great wrestling for me. I really like how Jay White blocked the buckshot and then went back to the ankle lock, which was like, oh, we're blocking the buckshot now. Like everybody knows that's Hangman's secret weapon. That's how he gets it done. He's going to have to figure out how to get it done without the buckshot.
Yeah.
So,
and I thought my favorite part of the match was towards the end. There's this minute-long part where Hangman is constantly trying to go for the buckshot. And he gets in, something happens. And then he gets thrown out of the ring. His momentum carries him out of the ring. He's there again. And then Jay White is there. And then he's back in the ring. And then he's outside of the ring again. And it's the buckshot. And he's just, I don't know if the end result of the story is some kind of Kenny Omega reunion situation.
Yeah.
If we see Hangman adopt the one-winged angel in some capacity, because Kota Ibushi has done it. Will Ospreay has done it to like get back at Kenny. So I don't know if we see that. I would do that. If I was booking this situation, which if I was booking this would not have happened. No. But Hangman losing, he looks crazy. He then follows Jay White up the ramp. Jay White does his 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ha 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 situation. He attacks Jay White. Here comes Christopher Daniels, who's like, man, this isn't you. Like this hasn't been like a year-long story of this is Hangman.
Yeah.
He's always been capable of this. Christopher Daniels acts like he was not in Ring of Honor when Hangman was literally hanging people.
He's
Were you there?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Christopher Daniels, were you there? Because I feel like he was not watching. Because Hangman Page has always been high-key crazy.
Yeah.
He's done
he
literal
used to
murders.
Wear a noose around his neck.
Noose, and then he's done literal murders on Being the Elite. So, not sure this isn't you, man. What isn't him? And then he takes out Christopher Daniels with a punch. He goes down like a sack of potatoes.
Yeah.
And then Hangman Page walks off.
Because Christopher Daniels is soft now. He's in his gingham top, right? That was a gingham print.
He's in his retirement era. His what is head of talent relations or whatever his title is.
Picnic table shirt.
Something. Yeah. He's in his businessman era. And I respect that because I love CD. But this isn't you. This is Hangman. This is the whole point of the Hangman character. It's literally driving me crazy when people
murder.
Yeah, well, the point of the Hangman character has always been that he is like there's a devil and an angel on his shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
He has always been this way, and I need AEW to lean into his Ring of Honor history. Because it would make the story so much more significant if this is like a decades-long reckoning instead of just him spiraling because of Swerve. And he's crazy. He's always been crazy and he always will be crazy and leaves his plans.
Did you see, you obviously saw that sign. Wasn't that great? Fantastic. Yeah. 10 out of 10.
Leaves his plans. And if you don't know what we're talking about, get on Blue Sky. Be part of the Leaves His Plans lore. Hangman Page is on Blue Sky. That's all. That's the only incentive you need.
I love it. Listen, with him, I was just, thinking about this. With Hangman back on some sort of social media platform, we don't know how long he's going to be on there. And then to Eddie Kingston, the way that he has been posting on Instagram, I'm just happy. I'm just happy my boys are having fun on social media platforms outside of X,
Yeah. It means that I don't have to go on X.
I logged into X for like the first time to get the link from you.
Yeah.
I was like, oh.
I've gone onto X a couple times because I check my DMs, make sure answer them, tell people I'm on Blue Sky or like, here's my phone number, you can text me, whatever. And then I'll like check specific things like the games that I like to see what's going on there.
Yeah.
Like I go to the pages. But this morning I scrolled my timeline for the first time and it was atrocious.
Yeah.
It was all CM Punk like discourse in 2024, the year of our Lord and Savior. Disgusting. Yeah. And then it was people talking about how everything should be chaos and anarchy because people need to be smarter and random annoying things. And then it was people talking about the freaking presser, but like not like, oh, this was a really fun answer by Private Party, or oh, this was really cool of Tony Khan to say this. It was like judging the validity of certain journalists or content creators and then certain talent being at the presser, whether they're worthy of a seat at the presser. Shut up. It is a kayfabe press conference. I do not care. The fact like people take, and I'm sorry to go on this rant, but people take things that legitimately do not matter at the end of the day and they spiral them to the point where thousands of people, like literally thousands of people, feel the need to give their opinion about it and fight with people about it. And you know where that doesn't happen? Blue Sky. Leaves his plants. Are
you ready to talk about the next match?
Which one? I have no idea which one is next.
Kyle Fletcher versus Will Ospreay. Will Ospreay coming out in his little Punisher outfit, which I thought was funny because he's such an Assassin's Creed fan that I was shocked.
Jacked.
Yeah. That's what I said. I said, "Oh, he's been up in some protein. Like he's
doing something because he was tanky."
Yeah, he did look tanky. And he's in all black, and then the opposite is Kyle Fletcher in the white and gold, which we all know it's basically the new, red or blue trunks, right? It's if you're wearing white and gold, you are winning that match. And yeah, he had a little crown that looked like it was from Party City. Like, I mean, any cheaper and it would have been the Burger King, crowns, which don't get me wrong. I love a good Burger King crown. If I'm going to Burger King, I want a freaking crown. Do they still do those? I don't know. It's probably been years.
So. I hope so. I want one.
But Don Callis joining commentary, whatever. He was not the focus of this match. Plenty of fuck Don Callis chants, which I pleasantly loved. But this was match of the night. This was your show stealer. And everything that Kyle Fletcher responded to, he had learned from Will Ospreay.
There's two things that I really loved about this match. First and foremost was that Will Ospreay adopted this sort of mature, more veteran, seasoned wrestler role because of the mirror, like the parallel image of the Kenny Omega Will Ospreay feud being reenacted through Kyle Fletcher and Will Ospreay.
Yeah.
And I loved that because Will Ospreay has kind of, especially in 2024, broken out of the mold of being Kenny Omega's successor or being like an up-and-comer, being not quite Kenny Omega, not yet Kenny Omega. You're not at that level yet. And he's kind of, in a weird, paradoxical way, taken his story outside of being the heir to Kenny Omega. He's become Will Ospreay, his own person, his own thing. And so for Kyle Fletcher then to bring it back in and say the exact same thing. I don't want to be you. I'm not the next Will Ospreay. I'm Kyle Fletcher. And to then detach himself from Will Ospreay, I think is like a really, really interesting story element. And I think that's what's drawn me into this so much. What's really crazy, this is an excellent match, 5+ stars, the full gambit, but it is not the best Will Ospreay match of 2024.
Absolutely.
To me.
Right. Ugh.
And then you have Don Callis, who despise him, and not even in a healthy way. Go get hit by a bus kind of way. He told me he doesn't like kids, and now Don Callis is a face to me.
Honestly, I loved that. I loved that.
No, he cannot. We cannot. The moment we start saying, Don Callis, you're kind of funny, right? The more emboldened he gets. And he like walks around in ugly suits, in freaking Tommy Bahama shoes.
Yeah.
With his bald ass head. And he gets on commentary. And I have to listen to him yap about how excellent he is and how much he loves everybody who's under his tutelage. Yeah, okay. And then I don't enjoy him. And I always had to see him twice because Takeshita had a match too.
I know. And we'll talk about that match. But okay, here are my notes. Reading off my phone. This was neck versus neck. They just kept doing things to their neck, which makes me physically ill. I don't like it when Bryan Danielson does it. I don't like it here. But for some reason, this was just perfect. They went back and forth. That spot on the apron, all I said was, holy shit, and remind me to not go to the apron when either of these men are nearby.
Yes.
There is that corkscrew moonsault to the floor. Yes. That was absolutely insane. But for some reason, everything that Will Ospreay gave to Kyle Fletcher, he took and had an answer for more. Yes. There was a couple points early on in the match that there was a near fall that I was like, oh, that's it? That's all we're getting? But honestly, I couldn't have asked for a better match during Full Gear. Will Ospreay could not put Kyle Fletcher down. And I think that he was shocked by how he had learned. And I think, especially with the United Empire, I feel that when Will Ospreay signed, right? I mean, it was Full Gear last year that he was like, guys, I've signed, but I have obligations. I'll be back.
I'll see you in a few
Definitely.
Months. Yeah.
I'll see you in a few months. Kyle Fletcher was in and around the action. I mean, yeah, he held the ROH television title, and we all know how I feel about that. No, not the television. Yes. Sorry, my brain was going, wait, that's wrong. No. So it was a television title holder. He lost it to Atlantis Jr. in CMLL. He's wrestling week after week after week on Dynamite. He's getting better and better and better. Oh my God.
They have thoughts about Will Ospreay, I think. Yeah, but I love this match. And I think the real story coming out of it is Kyle Fletcher winning clean and decisively. And I think a lot of people sort of expected Will Ospreay to take the win and big brother Kyle Fletcher in a sense. But Kyle Fletcher, It was the opposite. Kyle Fletcher got the win. And I think they're really setting him up to be a really big deal and a big single star in AEW. And I don't know where you go with him from here, because a lot of the titles are kind of like in really not dubious, but uncertain spaces. Like, obviously you have the Takeshita reign. So do you send Kyle Fletcher after Takeshita? Do you send him to challenge the new TNT champion? Do you send him after Moxley? I don't know. I think it all comes down to Don Callis. And I think because Takeshita is so over babyface wise, where people love him and hate that he's in this Don Callis, they don't want to boo Takeshita. I'm wondering if Kyle Fletcher goes for Takeshita, which I would love that. And I think,
he's on the level now.
Yeah.
And two Don Callis boys going after each other.
And I wonder if Don Callis cuts ties with Takeshita before, or if Takeshita cuts ties with Don Callis. But I think the image of Don Callis helping Kyle Fletcher beat Takeshita is another Kenny Omega parallel that I think is interesting to explore. Because Kenny Omega has returned to wrestling just in New Japan, obviously from his illness. And he has said, you should watch Sean's interview with Kenny. But he has said, like, AEW doesn't need me. Like, there's so many people there. They don't really need me. So, but this Kenny Omega parallel with the Kyle Fletcher Will Ospreay thing, and then another Kenny Omega parallel with Takeshita and Don Callis, the way that Kenny Omega and Don Callis sort of fell apart, Don Callis' betrayal. I think, like, the ghost of Kenny Omega is, like, floating through AEW. And I dig it. I love it. But where is he? I want him in AEW, but I won't complain too much, because he's as long as he's healthy and he's, like, cleared to say, I'm wrestling Gabe Kidd January 5th, I think, is the Wrestle Dynasty show. I'm okay with that.
Did you hear about, like, what Michael Nakazawa on his streams have been saying about Kenny, is how, like, he's never seen Kenny like this powerless before with recovery from diverticulitis, because it's a crapshoot. It's not like here's how long it's going to be. It's something has to happen inside your body, and your body either will heal it or will get surgery and then figure it out. But Michael Nakazawa had mentioned that, like, there would be a few good weeks during his recovery, and then it would just send him back, and he'd have to go back to, the hospital to get whatever taken care of, whatever cleaned out. And he's like, I've never seen this man so broken. It's diverticulitis is not a pretty, kind of illness. It's, a lot of time, reevaluating your diet and reevaluating, what actually works for your body after so long, and, like, cutting foods out and, basically taking it easy. And I don't see Kenny Omega as the kind of person that takes it easy very well.
Yeah.
So
He definitely gives me the impression that he's a major busybody. But it's like he said in the interview that I mentioned, like he has good days where like he feels like his old self, and he has bad days. And I think that, you know, if you're a chronically ill person, you can kind of relate to that on some level. But the fact that he's now in a spot where not only he feels comfortable going to wrestling and accepting a booking and all that kind of stuff, but a company like New Japan is comfortable booking him for such an important show and letting the backstage angle with Gabe Kidd shape out and letting him be a part of things. Like, it gives me a little bit of hope that he is recovered enough where he, not necessarily that he's out of the woods, because I don't want to jinx him, but that he's managing in a healthy way where he can kind of have more good days than bad days, which is always the goal of, you know, chronic illness and that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
So the Will Ospreay thing, I think eventually, I don't know if you do Ospreay Omega again as a singles match. I don't know if you tag team them up to tear down Don Callis. I don't know what the goal is. There's so many ways they could go with it. But I think in the Takeshita match, I think we kind of, not to jump ahead, of course, but I think we kind of got shades that the Don Callis Takeshita partnership is going to be disintegrating. Hopefully, fingers crossed soon. Fingers crossed. Tony Khan, if you're listening, please. Because the Takeshita Ricochet match was very, very, very good. I wish that Ricochet had done more flipsy dipsies, but I thought it was still a fun watch. I thought it was interesting to see Takeshita get cheered.
Yeah.
When he's supposed to be this evil bad guy killing the superhero Ricochet. Ricochet also got cheered, not as much as Takeshita, but Ricochet, I think we need to give him more credit because I think that he has been on another level in AEW. And I think when people talk about this sort of golden era of AEW that we're entering with this, you know, massive roster, I think people forget that Ricochet is there. And I think part of that is the fact that he hasn't been in the big title pictures and he hasn't had the rise of a Kyle Fletcher or the grittiness of a Jay White, that kind of thing. He's kind of in a weird in-between zone, but this match is really good. And I think Takeshita is more than overdue for a massive organic babyface run that he should have had the last time, but I digress. Tony Khan.
Tony Khan,
always making me mad. It's okay. I can control my anger, unlike Adam Page. But I am excited cautiously to see what happens this coming Wednesday on Dynamite.
Yes,
because we have C2, we have the fallout from Full Gear, we have so many things that are kind of like on the stove simmering. Like we have the Acclaimed thing, we have the Takeshita thing, we have the Mariah May thing. So like I'm interested to see how things shape out, but I do think Kyle Fletcher and Takeshita in the last few months, kind of rapidly, actually, if we think about it, have kind of like shot to the top of the roster.
Yeah.
And if you're Don Callis, like kayfabe, their kayfabe manager, and you have Takeshita who is getting cheered and like loving the cheers and not willing to do the dirty work like Will Ospreay, and you have Kyle Fletcher who is annoying but willing to be your little lackey, and you're Don Callis, you got to do what you got to do because he genuinely does not care about anybody. You cut Takeshita loose and you take his title.
Gosh, I can't believe it's been a year since the Continental Classic.
Isn't that crazy?
Although I just realized that C2 is shortened from Continental Classic because it's CC.
Yeah, C2. All the doctors.
Oh my gosh.
All the dots are connecting.
I thought people were talking about something else.
I love that you have had this realization live. I love that there are people here who got to witness this.
I'm sure I'm going to look back and look at my face, go, oh, okay, that makes so much sense. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, Okada and Daniel Garcia have been announced for the C2.
I think I'm more excited for it this year because it was so great last year. And I think last year was such it was a weird year for AEW creatively in the sense that I found it difficult to get excited about something because I always felt like I was getting slapped in the face. And so I was, for the Continental Classic last year, it was a pleasant surprise. It was really freaking good. Mm-hmm. And so this year, I'm like, oh, the roster's even better. Mm-hmm. The stories are even better. We're firing on all cylinders. It's going to be good. And I'm excited. I think Daniel Garcia, which we can talk about, our new TNT champion, Daniel Garcia.
I just have to tell you that I got an email from Easy Plant because I don't know why I think I ordered from them one time. And the headline is Plants is leaves. Our holiday gift guide is here.
Our holiday gift guide.
So it is crossed. It is crossed
Plants
into
is leaves.
Plants is leaves.
It's crossed the barrier. Oh my God.
I love it so much. Thanks, Easy. Thanks, Easy Plant. The
funny thing about, if you're not on Blue Sky, you're like, what the hell is going on? But if you go to like the quote of the Hangman post where he says leaves his plants, there's a bunch of freaking randos who are not wrestling fans who are like, leaves his plants.
Leaves his plants.
That is so funny. You just know someone was like, oh, I got a joke to make. I gotta get my jokes off.
I mean, fair assumption. Yeah. So here are my thoughts since we're talking about Takeshita and Ricochet. I know that we had expectations for this match to be a bangzilla. I don't think it was my favorite match. I feel like I preferred the Wrestle Dream with the Will Ospreay because that was just like spot after spot after spot, but they did deliver. I just think that Takeshita is just the perfect amount of cocky asshole, and from him going from happy-go-lucky Cinnabon #1 fan to now I would beg Takeshita to be mean to me. Like, is there something psychologically wrong with me?
He kind of feels like a Bond villain.
Yeah. Like,
I love
you want to slap me, and he's sitting there laughing.
Yes.
Laughing after getting kicked in the mouth. Like, this is diabolical.
I love it. Yeah. There are very few wrestlers that I can confidently say I would die for, and he is one.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of agree with you in the sense that the match, it wasn't bad, and I don't want it to sound like I'm dissing, right? But it was like in a weird place. It was in a weird place where we had like banger, 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 and then it's like, when are we going to slow down? It's like whiplash, one after the other, after the other.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to rewatch it today because I think my perception of it at the time was a little bit skewed because of that. But I do think that Ricochet could have done more flipsy dipsy, whimsical superhero stuff, and he didn't because I don't know why. He did some, but it could have been more.
I mean, there was that missed 450 whatever. I don't understand how people can count rotations. Where do you start?
When they go around.
I'm just,
their head is, so they like, and then it's 1, 2, and then, but if it's half, so like if they're landing like on their back, right? If they go around and land on their back, then that's 90.
It's too many because I do math
if you're like this and you go like this, it's 180.
Okay. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've never been able to like understand the 450.
They move too fast.
It's too fast.
I just trust commentary knows enough geometry.
But there was that missed part, and he just slapped right on the mat, and I was like, okay, that's it. You know, Ricochet's getting put away, and that's fine. I don't need Ricochet to win. I appreciate that we are building this psycho Bond killer called Konosuke Takeshita.
And I am so here for it because it feels different from what's happening elsewhere at AEW, namely like the main event world title scene, which these things could be so very similar that they kind of meld together, but they're going in two different directions, which I love. And I also love that the Will Ospreay stuff feels so entirely different. And I like, there's so much diversity in the men's division right now in terms of like the type of characters, the types of stories, the elements that we're using. And we just need a little bit in the women's division and we could be in the same boat.
We would be all hunky-dory here. Speaking of, do you have any other thoughts about this match before we...
It was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we skipped over Mr. Daniel Garcia versus Jackin' star Jack Perry, the scapegoat. I need to know your thoughts because I was jacking it the whole time.
I was
jacking it.
I have loved this whole feud. Let me say that like up front. I love like the Jack Perry sing they used to sing for me too. Like they used to dance for me too, like resonated so strongly with me. I've loved this feud. The little video package they played before of Daniel Garcia's mom on the phone. I
know.
It's like, I've seen all this crazy stuff going on. I'm really worried about you, but I know I've raised you to be this good person, but you got to do stuff for yourself. And it's childhood photos and also pictures of him always being the supporter of everybody else, never taking his moment, that kind of stuff. And so we come into this match and it's a good match. Like, I'm not mad about the match. I think Jack Perry was good. I think Daniel Garcia was good. But I think the entire match are just kind of waiting for the fate of Daniel Garcia.
Yeah.
It's like, because if he loses, that's pretty decisive. Because we're for a long time, it's been, will they finally pull the trigger on Daniel Garcia, or will he just fade away again after another, organic rise and should have capitalized on that kind of thing. I think Daniel Garcia in this match was a better wrestler than Jack Perry.
Oh, shots fired.
I was jacking it. I'll always be jacking it for Jack Perry.
Always be jacking it
because I love the scapegoat character. But I think Daniel Garcia had so much heart in the match. And it was like, he was very, very emotional in the sense that, and Jack Perry really wasn't. And I think that's part of the scapegoat character where he thinks he's above it. He thinks, he's one of the elite, all that kind of stuff. Daniel Garcia wins. He's a new TNT champion. So I think we're finally pulling the trigger on him. And I loved he's celebrating in the ring, very emotional, crowd's going crazy. He gets out of the ring. There's an AEW flag. He wraps it around his shoulders and he walks off triumphant to the presser, where, mind you, he brings back the real TNT title belts. Not the Jack Perry grungy.
Okay, but I liked it.
I liked it too, to be honest.
So yeah, Jack Perry, this has been my favorite evolution of Jack Perry. I don't want to see it go anywhere. I love the scapegoat. I loved the stupid, creepy goat head thing. I don't like masks. That's actually like a huge phobia of mine, is like those masks kind of things. So like the Bludgeon Brothers, I closed eyes. It's just not a thing for me. It's trauma, whatever. But you take the best version of Jack Perry with the best version of Daniel Garcia. Daniel Garcia, who has been on this I'm a real boy kind of campaign, right? He had this match with MJF in a losing effort. And for some reason, it was like he became a man, so to speak. Like, he really had to decide for himself, was he good enough? And Jack Perry, the entire match, was going, you aren't good enough. You're not good at, like, you aren't man enough. And then in the end, Daniel Garcia making that motherfucker tap.
Yes.
And that Boston Crab, just seeing that, and then he extends it back. Hello, Daniel Garcia. Have I been underestimating you this whole time? There's a reason why Bryan Danielson was like, that guy. There's a reason why Adam Copeland said, that guy. He is that guy.
He is that guy.
And people are now going to see it. I loved the finish. I loved the story they told. And, you know, I just get suckered into the way the matches go. Forget the moves. But it was how they got there along the way that I just...
Yeah.
It was perfect. It was so good. Honestly, probably my third favorite match of the entire night.
Yeah. And I think wrestling-wise, it was one of the most simplistic matches of the night. But I think the story of it all, the rise of Daniel Garcia... I think the video package with his mom, which I don't know if it was actually his mom. It was Daniel Garcia.
It was. I think he confirmed that on the presser that it was his mom.
Good.
And his mom was the one who got him into wrestling.
Yeah.
Right. So there was home video, and it showed him with a title belt around his waist, being a child.
Yeah.
And being like, my mom is the one. Like, it's her fault that I'm into this. Like,
yeah. And I loved it. And I think Daniel Garcia moving ahead into the C2 and then obviously past the C2, I think he's in the same boat as Kyle Fletcher and Takeshita in the sense that we're building not a new generation, because they've been here, but a new movement in AEW of a new refresh of talent. We're sort of... Because obviously you have the Okadas and the Ospreys and Kenny Omega and all these people who are always going to be like at the top. They're basically cemented there. They're legends. But you need people who kind of like back that up, who are always there and always sort of constantly proving themselves reliable and pulling out good matches and being the main eventers and that kind of stuff. And I think Daniel Garcia, Kyle Fletcher, and Takeshita coming out of this, and then obviously on the women's division side, Mercedes and Kris, I think AEW has really, in this show especially, done a really, really good job of patching some holes in their foundation with these wrestlers and making sure that they're capitalizing when the iron's hot. And so Daniel Garcia, I think his reaction, his presser, everything surrounding this whole thing was very much, I am in AEW. I'm going to work hard for AEW, and you're going to see just how good I really am. And so I'm excited to see what matches come out of Daniel Garcia in the C2. We don't know the whole lineup yet. I'm presuming there's going to be some surprises. There's going to be some fun matchups. But Daniel Garcia needs to just go like no holds barred, pedal to the metal, full shebang, proving himself. Like, I am a fantastic freaking wrestler. And I'm more than just this comedy thing with Chris Jericho. And I'm more than just the random singles dude to go with 2.0. And I'm more than just, a good wrestler who can have a good match, but always takes the pin. He is the dude. And I think Jack Perry has had that opportunity where he's showed, I am more than Jungle Boy. I'm more than this whole Jurassic Express childlike thing. He had that chance with the TNT title. And now it's Daniel Garcia's turn. And so that's, I think, where the TNT title should be. Not this... we talked last show about the lineage of the TNT title, and I don't want to go into it again because it's so disappointing. Yeah. But I think if we continue this way with the title, it'll be more useful for AEW. And like I said, this wasn't the best match on the card wrestling-wise, but everything else kind of tipped it over. And Jack Perry losing after the Young Bucks have gone home is so interesting because commentary a couple times were like, here's Jack Perry defending his title, doing what he said he was going to do. When the Young Bucks have gone home, they're working from home, they've disappeared, they've used all their contract dates, they don't have to be here. So I don't know if we're going to see Jack Perry move away from the scapegoat thing into something more Jungle Boy-esque, or if he's going to continue the scapegoat thing, but we see some kind of babyface turn. I don't know what the deal is going to be there, but I'm excited to see what the next steps are for him personally.
Absolutely.
And so overall, I think the TNT title picture is the healthiest it's been in a hot minute.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I'm into it. We have 2 matches left. How you feeling?
Oh my God, they're 2 bangers too.
I know. So the next match is Bobby Lashley versus Swerve Strickland. Okay. I mean, you're a TNA fan. You remember Bobby Lashley in TNA? Mm-hmm. This felt like Bobby Lashley in TNA.
Yes. And freaking incredible.
I feel like I'm one of the few people that when Bobby Lashley finally got the WWE Championship during the pandemic, it was like, okay, something's missing. Why are we not fully, taking off with this? I can't excuse, what WWE did. I know that Bobby Lashley does not want to disparage WWE because they did give him a lot of great opportunities, but this was so fantastic to see. I know that his Destroyer or something, one of his old finishers is back. Yes. That was banned from WWE, and it looks just so freaking good. He just looks so good. And the whole thing of the match was Swerve gets his ass kicked.
Yeah.
And there was like they did use the Spanish announce table, and what did the Spanish announce table do to these guys for them to just obliterate it? I don't know. But there was also a spot where Swerve used the stairs and ran up and just, I don't know. I don't know how to say this. I just really loved how he utilized the entire playground. Having Shelton Benjamin be kicked out, and he's like, "What fuck me for? What fuck me for?" Like everything was just so fantastic.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed this. I think Bobby Lashley looked fantastic, and that's exactly what you needed to do. I don't know. I don't know what's to come, but I just know that the Hurt Syndicate is well on their way to making everybody Bobby Lashley's bitch.
Yeah, Swerve was like utterly destroyed in this match. I think they did an excellent job of making, good old Robert look as terrifying as possible. Because obviously you look at him and he looks scary. He's big as can be. He's freaking massive, okay? But he looked like he was handling Swerve like a child at some points. It was crazy. And then at the end, my favorite part of this whole thing was the end where the Hurt Syndicate's in the ring, all of them, and they're standing over Swerve and they're gonna hurt him. And then you see Prince Nana kind of like crawl his way into the ring, and he's like covering himself, like covering Swerve with himself. Because Swerve apparently has no friends except for Nana. And so he's trying to save him. Yeah. And they like pick up Nana like a baby. And they end up, unfortunately take out Prince Nana while Swerve is like so like beat up and tired and exhausted from everything he just went through that he can't get to him. They kept them separate, and they destroyed both of them at the end of the match. Yeah. And they stood triumphant over their dead bodies. And that, to me, that was my favorite part of it. Because going into the C2, I don't know if the Hurt Syndicate is going to be recruiting people. I don't know if Bobby Lashley or Shelton Benjamin is going to be in the C2. Like, I have no idea. But I think that they looked as dominant as could be because Lashley won the match and they got the beatdown angle and they stood tall. And obviously commentary was very much hyping up the physique of Bobby Lashley, the strength of Bobby Lashley, that, agility, athleticism, all of his attributes. And JR was on commentary, which I think added a nice touch because he knew Bobby Lashley, MMA Bobby Lashley, pre-wrestling Bobby Lashley. He helped recruit him into wrestling. And so he very much was able to sell this guy's the real freaking deal. I watched him destroy people in MMA. He has this MMA background. He's tough as nails. That, typical JR, imagery. And so I was a little bit surprised that Swerve lost and then also got beat down so decisively. And he was so helpless and there was nothing he could do. But I understand that AEW had to do this to establish the Hurt Syndicate because I think they have bigger plans for them beyond Swerve. And so I don't know what those plans might be. I don't know what the situation will end up being, but I do think that the Hurt Syndicate right now is the scariest thing in AEW because MVP has proven himself to be a remarkable manager. He does what he needs to do and he does it. You have bodyguard Shelton Benjamin, Secret Service Shelton Benjamin, who's terrifying in his sunglasses and his suit. And you have freaking Robert Lashley walking around like Hulk. They're scary. And then they Swerve as a former world champion and they beat him like a boy. Another
person that's in the title contention, right? How do we have all of these fantastic wrestlers like this? What an honor to watch them.
Yeah, AEW is, in terms of roster, on another level. And I really enjoyed this match. I'm happy to see Bobby Lashley wrestling, first of all, and also being as important and integral to the success of a show that I think he should be. And I'm really excited because I think the Hurt Syndicate, a couple people in the chat have said Hobbs, talking about Hobbs, Hurt Syndicate, or, wrestling Bobby Lashley. I don't know. And then obviously we have Anthony Bowen sort of lurking around. We have a ton of talent. So I don't know how fast the Hurt Syndicate sort of recruits people, or I don't know how often Bobby Lashley is going to be wrestling, but I think that AEW is something really special here. And I think fans in general are very, very excited to see where this thing sort of goes, especially after the Swerve thing. So this match, its spot on the card was a little weird to me because I expected it to come much earlier because I expected a big angle at the end.
Same.
So I expected this to come much earlier and it didn't, which is, I guess, fine. It was a little weird, but no, I loved this.
Yep. Absolutely. Oh man.
Main event time.
Main event. What fucking sickos.
This match was kind of crazy.
So I've seen mixed reviews about the ending, but I don't really care what other people think. I watched Full Gear 2023 on Friday, right? So that means I watched Jon Moxley and Orange, right, for their international title, which they were completely different wrestlers. It was a completely different style of match. To put it nicely, I think that Jon Moxley, I don't know if he was going easy on him, but he's unlocked something inside himself that is a murderer.
Yeah.
He goes, okay, murder's fine. I'm not holding anything back now. Everything is fair game.
Yeah.
And I like how that pushed Orange Cassidy into something slightly murderous, something slightly darker, because we did get that, the spot where he, taps his leg and we did get that spot, but all in all, this was a very intense, bloody match. And I commented on Blue Sky that, Jon Moxley was just probably really wanting to bleed. But the fact that he was covered in somebody else's blood and it was concentrated on his hands. So even in his matches, Jon Moxley has the blood of somebody else on his hands.
Yeah.
And the spot where they were scratching each other's back, I don't know about you.
Oh yeah.
But like I mean, I'm into, some, foreplay, so to speak, right? There have been times where like scratching and like grabbing and like biting, all of those things have happened in these scenarios. And, I'm not, Jon Moxley, but, you do it forcefully. I am sore as hell the next day. Like, I'm almost debilitated to the point where...
You know what? I think Orange Cassidy in this match, I think the story is that he's obviously fighting for the title, clearly. But I also think that he's also fighting for Chuck. He's fighting for, Danielson. He's fighting to end Moxley, ultimately, at the end of the day. Not even just for the title. And so I think it was interesting, not just the scratching part, but a couple of other things where Moxley does something and Orange Cassidy's like, I have to out Moxley. Yeah. And obviously there's blood. It's a Moxley match. But I think Cassidy, it was very interesting to see him be in a position where he feels a lot more desolate and a lot more desperate than we're used to seeing Orange Cassidy, because he's normally calm, cool, and collected. And then when he does try and he does kind of like turn it on, he's not like that. He's very much high energy, frantic, bum, ba, bum. Like, that's just how he is. So it was interesting to see him slip into this role where he's desperately crawling to end Jon Moxley. Mm-hmm. And of course he doesn't get it. Moxley is unstoppable. There's like, it's insane. But it was interesting. And I want to know your thoughts on this. So they have like the little case that, little case, his little backpack, his little secret, his little briefcase. And so Orange Cassidy, the ref is distracted, hits Moxley with it because he's desperate to beat him. He's trying to outmox Moxley. Yeah. And obviously Moxley also uses it. And so then both of them have cheated. But I think I know people were like upset about this because Orange Cassidy's a babyface and he shouldn't be doing that. But I think that like the point of the match was not necessarily that Orange Cassidy wanted to win the title. Like obviously he wants to be world champion, but I think he had bigger goals, which were predominantly vengeance and understanding that he is probably one of the only people that can satisfy this role of stopping Jon Moxley, like stopping him in his tracks and everything that Jon Moxley is trying to do. And so like, of course he's going to use like any means necessary to do that. And he did. He used the little briefcase. It was not successful. He ended up losing the match. He ends up getting beat down, and then we enter the chaos of the, finishing angle. But Orange Cassidy failing in this role is far more compelling to me for many reasons, because now you have Jon Moxley, who is being attacked like on all angles by like the entire main event scene. Right. And which we'll get to. We'll talk about the angle. And then you also have Orange Cassidy, who's like, well, what good am I now if I can't beat Moxley, who I've beaten before, and I can't avenge my friends, and I can't be the leader that people have always wanted me to be, and all of those things. And I'm curious because Orange Cassidy, I think, was not Orange Cassidy in this match. He was a completely different wrestler, completely different person, because he was acting out of fear and desperation. And so I think we will probably in the future circle back to Orange Cassidy and Moxley and see Orange Cassidy as Orange Cassidy, appropriately dressed.
in his blues again.
In his blues. And then I think we'll run that match back again. But of course, like the big controversy of the show is this closing angle.
I have a lot of thoughts. But like, here's the thing. We knew shenanigans are going to happen. And in a messy match full of desperation, full of blood on other people's hands, there had to be some sort of shenanigans. So, of course, we knew that Christian Cage is going to come out with his stupid little contract. But commentary is selling. He has to sign it. He has to sign it in order for it to be, you know, put into paper, right? Pen to paper or whatever. It's not like the Money in the Bank where it's just handing you the briefcase and you're going. So that happened. And then Hanger's coming out and just looking feral as ever, staring down Moxley. And both of them have seen themselves become felons, possible, almost felons with their murdering and their arson. And then out comes Jay White. And then there's that feud that happened. And it's like, okay, that's a weird angle. I was fully expecting someone else to return. Nobody else came. Moxley wins. He packs up his shit. And he gets the heck out of there. I forgot to mention Willow. Willow coming in and taking out Marina Shafir, which is like, yes, because Willow's been out with concussion. So then having that all happening, having the conglomeration come out, Ishii running as fast as possible, like all of that is going on. And all of a sudden we just see an image of, which I love. I love that Pac is in full gear. He's not even wrestling. He's just in full gear.
Walks around like that, presumably.
It is not a crime. It's not a punishable offense for the Death Riders to be standing there, but they usher him out. They usher Moxley out. They still have their briefcase. And then we get the angle in the back.
Yes.
Did you know that was Darby Allin's vehicle?
I figured it when it happened. So just in case people haven't seen it, essentially they're going to get in their pickup truck. Their Death Rider's pickup truck. And it gets hit by a car, which it's ugly as shit, and it's dusty and crusty and painted, so it's Darby. And they go, oh no! And they steal keys from the valet and steal a car. So we have more crimes happening.
More crime.
And they, drive off. And then Darby gets out of the car. He's bleeding because, of course, there's no stunt man. It's just Darby. And he tries to climb onto the pickup truck. And he slips. And so he tries again. And he ends up getting on top of this pickup truck eventually. And he beats in the windshield with the skateboard. And he's just screaming.
I know.
Screaming as the Death Riders drive away.
I didn't even mention Wheeler Yuta. Wheeler Yuta coming in, and that's the finish of the match. So then we finally see Wheeler Yuta, and all of these things are culminating and building up to Darby screaming at Moxley in the end. Do you think Darby takes it off of Moxley?
I don't think so. At least not anytime soon.
Yeah.
Because I feel like...
Because that was the plan. That he was going to take it from Danielson.
Yeah, but I also feel like the Moxley thing, Moxley being unstoppable and unbeatable, I dread the thought of feeding him so many opponents to save him for Darby. But I also feel like it's way too soon to end the Moxley thing. So, especially now that you got Jay White's involved in it, and Hangman Page is involved in it, and Christian Cage. And if Christian Cage is involved in it, that means eventually Adam Copeland's going to be involved in it. And so, and you got freaking Kenny Omega working it out. And I don't know if I buy the idea, and maybe this is just me. I don't know if I buy the idea that Jon Moxley is scared of Darby Allin.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I buy the idea that the Death Riders drove away afraid. I think they drove away because they wanted to get Jon Moxley out of there because all these other people are lurking, not because Darby's there with his ugly car that he pulled out of some junkyard in Mississippi. I think
Mississippi is from Auburn, which anytime that any one of my friends have said, "Oh, I'm moving to Auburn," I go, "I'm sorry for your loss," because
that car stank of Mississippi mud hole. I could see it a mile away.
Oh my God.
He imported it or something. But
I mean, they were in Jersey, so I'm sure it, from Trenton or something.
Do I think Darby is a fan favorite? Yes. Do I think Darby has had great matches? Yes. But I think that this Jon Moxley thing is it's another level. It's a whole nother level, to the point where, like, I don't even know if I buy Jay White being scary to Jon Moxley.
Yeah.
Or I don't know if I buy Hangman Page, another known criminal offender, a threat to Jon Moxley, because it does feel like Jon Moxley is unbeatable, unstoppable, because he's getting away with crimes. He's doing whatever he wants. He has taken and seized control of AEW, essentially.
Yeah.
And so if it is Darby, that they want Darby to be the guy that beats Mox, it can't happen anytime soon. Like, there's just no way. There's no way. Because if you do it at World's End, if you do it at Revolution even, I don't know. Because you either have to do something that shifts Darby up into scary territory where he's not just a skateboarding weirdo that hangs out with Tony Hawk, or you have to bring Moxley down.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know how you do that either. I feel like that's a waste. So I don't know. Like, it's such a weird situation where Darby beating Danielson feels more believable than Darby beating Mox. Just like the way that things have worked out and the way things have been shaped. And I guess Kenny Omega? Because, like, the Elite also had this kind of story where they were controlling AEW, doing things for themselves. All of those, don't know where Tony Khan is, by the way.
In the back.
MIA with his neck brace somewhere. I don't know. And then you have Jon Moxley, who's like, nobody in AEW works hard enough. You all suck. You're complacent. I hate every single one of you. And so we're going to beat everybody up until you try harder.
Yeah.
And then you have Darby, who arguably tries a little too hard.
Yeah.
And I'm supposed to believe that Jon Moxley can be reasonably beat by him.
Well, there you go.
I don't buy it.
I don't know.
You have to make me buy it.
Renee is the only one to beat him. Claudio, Yuta, Pac, all joining together.
Any part of the Death Riders I would buy.
Bryan Danielson. Avenging his own murder. Coming back as Ghost. I feel delusional. I've had like 5 hours of sleep.
Do you want to give your final thoughts?
It wasn't my favorite pay-per-view of AEW this year, but I think all of the storylines that I wanted to be told were told. I love that Mercedes had the match of her lifetime. Lifetime of her lifespan so far in AEW has been fantastic. Kyle Fletcher coming out on top was fantastic. Konosuke Takeshita being iconic and elevating that story. Bobby Lashley. Bobby freaking Lashley.
Robert freaking Lashley.
And everything else, it sucks. Like, it's not fully developed. Let's keep going. Let's keep booking the Costco guys. Like, let's have more of that.
Where's their graphic?
I know.
I love them so much.
It makes me excited for World's End, and then literally days later we get Wrestle Dynasty, and we're just gonna have so much fun.
Yeah, right? we're just vibing. Leaves his plants.
Leaves his plants.
Chicken bake.
double chunk chocolate cookies. Here, listen, Kiley, the next time we hang out, we can go to Costco together because I got that black card membership.
Oh.
Yeah.
Costco guys, if you're listening, come on our show. Talk about Costco.
$120 every year. Pay for that card. Pays
Costco
for itself.
Seems like a vibe. Seems like a vibe.
Pays for itself after, 10 chicken bakes,
10 chicken bakes equals one Costco membership.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Oh my goodness. My final thought is that this show was a lot of fun. It was very much a set the stage, let things breathe, see how it plays out kind of show, which I really appreciated. I think my favorite match of the night was Mercedes, Kris Statlander, but I also really loved Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher. But I don't think there's a match on this card, including the 0 hour, that I would say was bad. Which that review's a win. That's a win.
Yeah.
And it also leaves his plans. And where's the Costco guys graphic? Because Big Justice needs to be signed. That spear was stellar.
Well, it was stellar. It was better looking than a lot of people's.
Period.
I'll tell you that.
I had the same thought. I was like, how is he so good at this? But anyway, I'll do my plugs. So you can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Kiley Wrestling. It's right there if you need it. Mm-hmm. I'm mostly on Blue Sky now because Twitter scares me every time I go there. So I'm mostly on Blue Sky, along with Hangman Page, by the way. But you can follow me there. You can see also I live tweeted Full Gear, so if you want to read my thoughts as they happened, you can follow me there. Also, this is Fightful Overbooked. This is a channel with a lot of fantastic things on it. Wrestling, non-wrestling, the full gambit. So make sure you go and check out after this, obviously, listen to our plugs. Go to the playlist tab and go see what you like. There's lots of great stuff happening on Fightful Overbooked. And this is Wrestling Made Me Cry. This is a show where me and Collins come on every Sunday at noon Eastern to talk about things in wrestling that made us cry this week. And, Full Gear was the thing that made us cry this week in a lot of great ways. So every Sunday, noon, we'll be here. And we'll chit-chat. I just noticed.
An extended episode. Yeah,
I just noticed that I'm looking at the little timer. 2 hours, 16 minutes so far.
Yeah.
So Collins, do your plugs.
Yeah. You can follow me anywhere there is a social media _queer auntie. If they don't acknowledge underscores like Blue Sky, just take it out. Find me at queer auntie. Find me on Twitch. I be streaming sometimes. I'm here every Sunday for Wrestling Made Me Cry. On Mondays, I'm doing a women's classic wrestling podcast. We are currently going through the Mae Young Classic, but don't worry, no need to catch up. We're only on episode 2, season 1. So join us tomorrow. I believe it is after Monday Night Raw, so that would be 10 p.m. Eastern time, 7 p.m. Pacific or ish around here, whenever that is.
Yeah.
And then Thursdays, I talk about Ring of Honor over on our local establishment. Both of those are at the same place. You can find me there talking about Ring of Honor, mostly rambling because Ring of Honor is difficult to go through each week. But there are some bangers. But I'm around. Join the fun. And if you follow my Linktree, you'll be able to see all the additional post shows and pre-shows and prediction shows that I've been on Love Wrestling CA. And hopefully I'll be around for more things coming soon.
Period. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I see people saying it's the first episode. Welcome. We have a cute little fun community over here. And then obviously it's great to see all our usual people. This was a fun time. I had a great time recounting Full Gear. There's also an ice cream truck outside. I don't know if you can hear it.
Ice cream truck? Is this the 1950s? What is happening?
You don't have ice cream trucks?
In Washington State?
You don't have them?
No.
Oh, we have. Oh, okay. Well, I guess maybe Florida is holding on.
Okay.
To our ice cream trucks. We have ice cream trucks twice a day. This thing goes by.
Twice a day?
You don't have ice cream? We have ice cream trucks at the beach.
We have stores. that you buy ice cream.
Too. It's not the apocalypse over here.
You guys get Publix, and I love a Publix.
I love a Publix. A pub sub, so good. Shout out Publix. Maybe we rebrand as the Publix people. Yes, Clown says they have ice cream trucks in San Diego.
San Diego. Okay, well, it's probably because it rains here. It just rains here all the time. So
yeah, it's not ice cream weather.
You know what it is? It's coffee weather. And I need to get some coffee, man.
Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. Like I said, we'll be live every Sunday at noon Eastern. So we'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.